Hey everybody, and welcome back to another screencast. This is Charles Maxwood, and this week I'm going to be showing you how I plan on implementing the followers and following sort of things for this Twitter clone. So the first thing that we're looking at here is it's this API right here. So I want to be able to do list. I want to be able to give it a name and give it a class, and this class is going to be the type of object that the connection is pulling in. So let's go ahead and switch over to Sandra, since most of the work is going to be done there. And here, let me get rid of this. I've been playing with things a little bit. So Sandra is where all the magic happens. So the first thing that we need to do is, you saw that method. I keep hitting. So you saw this method right here, this list followers user. So what we need to do is we need to implement that method, because right now it'll just blow up if we don't. So list, and then it took two arguments. It was the name and the type of thing that was being passed in. And so then what we'll do is in here we wanted to find a method. So we passed in followers over here, and we want to be able to call followers on our object and have it give us back a collection of those objects. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do define method, name, do, and define method is just a way of defining a method on an object. In this case, define method is like calling def. So in this case, it's going to be an instance method in our class. So what we'll do here is we'll actually take the type, and we're going to convert it to a class. Type 2s, and then constantize. And what that does is it looks in the constants table and it finds the constant that has that name. So in this case, type is user with a capital U, and so it'll look up and it'll find the user class. So the next thing we need to do is we need to take this class and we need to query our database and get all of the information we need. And so what we'll do here is we'll do a class.connection.get, because we're only going to be pulling one row, and that row is going to be the list of all of our followers. So we'll do name.toS.camelize, because that's the convention we're following. So you can do a snake case name and it'll switch it over to a camel case column family. And then what we'll do is we need to get whatever there is at the key that's related to the user that we're dealing with. So that's all we really need there, and that should pull in a list that we can then deal with. And what we actually need off of this, because it's an ordered hash, is we need the keys. So let's go ahead and do one more thing, and that is that this key method doesn't exist. So we're going to have to go all the way to the top and define it. So we'll just stick it in right here. And we're just going to access the attributes, and it's self.class. That gets us the class, and then we just can pull the key from the class. So that's all we have to do there. So let's go ahead and see where this gets us here. So let me blow this up a little bit, make sure we're in the right place, and then we'll do Rails console. And you'll notice that we already have Cassandra running, so no worries there. So if we do a u equals user.get, and then we'll just use my Twitter handle, since that's what I've been using on this. So u.followers. Okay, it says key nil must be a string for blah 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 in multi-get, and it looks like it's being called in followers on row 119. So let's come back here and have a look and see what's going on here. So 119 is right here, and it thinks that this is null. So I'm just going to try something here. Raise self.username, just because I know that'll work for this user class. In fact, u.username, u.class.key is username. So u.attributes, u.class.key, whoops, is nil. To s, because we're stringifying our keys. So that's the problem right there. So so let's go back up to the top here, and all right. So that should take care of that. So let's come back out here. Fire this back up. I'm just going to look over here real quick and make sure that we didn't miss anything else. It'll tell us, but it's always nice to know. It doesn't look like it, so right there. There's the u.followers. All right, and I was playing with this earlier, and so it's returning a key right there. So the next thing that we need to do, so we lucked out because we already have a follower in the system, so to speak. So the next thing that we need to do, it's nice because then we know that we got the right answer. I had to work it blind and then put somebody in. And I need to get tests on Sandra, but I've been a little bit lazy with that just because I want to figure out the implementation first. I feel like I would iterate too much on the tests, figuring this stuff out first. So anyway, so the next thing that we need to do then is we actually need to go ahead and do a multi-get. And I'm somewhat inclined to create our own method here. So we'll just do a multi-get. Key, we need to make an assignment here. Keys equals. So what that does is that gets us to the point where we can then set things up and get multiple objects at the same time. So we'll def multi-get keys. And then what we'll do is we just need to pull the objects in. So I'm just going to call this collection equals user, not user, connection dot multi get, and then it takes two arguments. It takes the class or the column family, which is named the same as the class, and it takes a set of keys that it needs to pull in. So then what we can do is we can do to give back the collection, we need to do a collection dot map object, and then the object is gonna do something like self dot new object, which is something we defined before. And then we give it a key. So yeah, that's right, because it returns a hash. So we have key and attributes. So key, attributes, and that's what we're returning. So that's it. And if it's an empty array, in other words, if this collection doesn't bring anything back, then map on an empty array should return an empty array. So we should be good there. Let's go ahead and reload our code. And we'll go through this rigmarole again. User.get cmaxw u.followers. And so what we're getting is this array, and this is another user object that we can do stuff with. So far so good, right? We're already pulling in a list of users. Now the other thing that we need to do is we need to be able to add people to these lists. So what we're going to do is, if you look at this, followers, and let's just user.new or new, and then we'll say that they have a username Joe, password pass. So it added it to the array. The problem is that if we do this again, this is hitting the database again and pulling it back. So we may want to set up some caching on that, but we'll worry about that in a minute. You can see that it's not adding it to the list. And so we have a problem here because, appending isn't adding them. And it would be really nice if it would. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to set up a proxy object that basically just holds that array and persists any changes to the array back into the system, back into the database. So what we need to do here then is we need to actually set things up on our define method name such that we are returning that proxy object. So let's see here. We're going to need this. So we'll just pull it out here, and then I'm actually going to create the proxy object right here in the Sandra stuff, which I think is, there we go. Okay, so we're in Sandra here, so I can just do it from Vim. So we'll just do an lib Sandra, and I'm just going to call it a list. I'm going to keep it simple. That's fine. Lib Sandra list.rb. Error detected while processing function edit. No, right since last change. Oh. Lib Sandra list.rb. Okay. Okay, and I was working on some of this stuff before, so it looks like Vim created an artifact here. So you're going to get the benefit of my playing. Oh, never mind. Okay. So we are in lists, so I'm going to go ahead and write this right now. And then what we'll do is we will we'll define this list. So we just want to go ahead and we need to do this within the module. I don't want to clobber anything else that's called list because it's a pretty common name. Class list. And then basically we have initialize, and we're going to take a type or a name and a type. And then the other thing that we need here is we actually need to know what self is, because if we look at this, you can see that we need to know what self.key is. Let's see, it's right. Oh, we pulled it out. Right here. So we have this self.key right here, and that's important. We need to know what that is so that we can get whose followers we're following. So I just put it in as owner. And so what we'll do is we'll just we'll set up some instance methods here, or instance variables here real quick. Sorry, I'm a little tired. So the first one we want is name, and we'll just assign that to name. Type, we may as well just reference the class, right? So type dot to s dot constantize, and we can zap that then, and we can actually do replacements here. Oh, if you want it to do a global search and replace, you have to put a percent in front. Yep, right there. Okay. So far so good, right? And then what we need to do is we'll set the owner as well. So then what we do down here is, in fact, let's make name a string too, since we're dealing with it in the Cassandra gem. It wants it to be a string anyway. So that gets rid of this much. So then what we can do is we get these keys, and then we'll keep track of them in an elements, an array that we'll just store right there. So we've got our name, we've got our type, we've got owner. In fact, let's do the camelize here too, because I honestly don't believe that we're gonna need anything else. So, and in fact, while we're refactoring, ColumnFamily, make that ColumnFamily. All right, so far so good. So the only other things that we need here then is we need some way of appending stuff. And that's not too hard. I mean, you know, you just do something like this, right? And you're done, right? Well, not exactly, because again, we have that persistence problem. So anyway, let's come back up here and use our list. So what we'll do is we'll do, and I'm just going to define, I'm going to define the list here, and I'm going to do it with something. I'm going to use some metaprogramming in order to do it. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to check and see if it's already been initialized, because I'm going to set up some caching. So what we'll do is we'll basically do unless instance variable get, and then I put 2 underscores in there because I figure most people aren't going to name their instance variables underscore underscore blah blah blah, and so I'm trying to avoid a collision here. I'm sure there are better ways of doing this. If you know one, let me know. So we'll set this up. So basically, if the instance variable is defined, then, or if the instance variable is not defined, then we'll go ahead and set it. Var name equals and then we'll create our list here, .new, and we're going to give it name, type, and self, because that's the owner of the followers, or the owner of the list. And so the last thing that we need to do is we need to return And that should be it. We should be good to go. So one thing that I notice here is that we're referencing Sandra.list, but we don't actually have it included up here. So now if we come up here, and we do the user get u.followers undefined method key for Sandra list. So we did something wrong, and it's in followers. So wait, line 121. Undefined method key for Sandra.list. Oh, I think I know what the problem is. It's right here. So self is now the list. So we change it to owner. Wish there was a better way to do this. All right. So then we get this Sandra list. The elements are that one user that was already a follower, and the owner is this guy, and you can kind of see what's there, and that it has this instance variable on this guy. So if we pull U again, he's got this instance variable that's this list. So it's kind of a circular reference there, but anyway. So you can kind of see where we're going. So the last thing that we need to do is we need to actually come in here and we need to persist this change. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to go with type.connection, and we're going to insert we're just going to insert the record. So ColumnFamily owner.key, and then we give it a hash. And so the hash is object.key. And I'm just going to give it a timestamp. And in the Cassandra gem, everything you pass has to be a string. Now, one other thing that I'm probably going to want to check on here before we just finish this off is I'm going to do a check that is going to make sure that the object is a type. In other words, make sure it's a user. And that should do that. So now what we need to do is just double check that it works. And yes, I know I'm doing a lot of hand waving as far as testing goes. I haven't done any tests on this. But anyway. So we got user.get. User followers append. In fact, let's see if we still have. Didn't we create a Joe? No. So let's just do that real quick. v.save false, v.errors. What are we missing? These might have to be strings. I might have to look into fixing that. v.valid, v.save false. Alrighty, well, So if it's valid, why isn't it saving? That's interesting. Let's see, user. There's nothing in the errors. All right, let's go look at the save here for a minute. Okay, so if key and valid. So v.key, Joe v.valid, true. All right, well, let's bypass this real quickly. So we'll do user.connection.insert Joe wrong number of arguments. All right. I think I set things up so that you can do that kind of stuff. User.get Joe. Okay. So now we have him. So now, sorry about that. So u dot followers. And that's all working. So u dot followers user.get Joe u.followers, and there you go. So you've got two of them now. You got this guy and this guy, and we are done. So if you have any questions or concerns, let me know. I'm probably going to go debug that save thing now so that it works in the future, and maybe I'll write a blog post on why that wasn't working before. But anyway, if you have any feedback, feel free to email me, chuck@teachmetocode.com. You can also leave a comment on the blog, and I'll go ahead and push this up to GitHub so that you guys can have a look at it. Thanks. Need expert help with your Ruby, Rails, or Sinatra application? Give me a call. My phone number is 801-367-6164, or you can email me, chuck@teachmetocode.com. Thank you.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!